Health at every size, fat activism, fat acceptance. For a group of people who hate name calling, they seem to love a good label. As somebody who came from a fairly overweight childhood, somebody who was bullied, I absolutely am against judging people based on their physical attributes. What they say, however, that's a different picture. I'm going to have a look at health at every size, body positivity, fat activism on TikTok. We hit 1,000 subscribers this week, which is a monumental occasion. So just for you, I'm going to venture onto this platform for the very first time.
If you've ever heard the phrase health at every size, but you're not sure what that is, this one's for you. Health at every size is an evidence-based medical practice that has actually existed in some form since the 60s, but has only gained significant traction in the last 10 or so years.
I'd be curious to see what her idea about evidence-based is. Is there direct evidence size or weight does not affect health? We'll find out.
Health at every size is inherently body inclusive and believes that people, regardless of their size, deserve respect. The major principle
I believe very much that you should give people respect and not judge them based on physical attributes. On board with that.
Health is better determined by someone's behaviors rather than just their static body weight percentage.
Health determined by behavior? No. Medical tests? Yes. Now I agree, if you're just going to isolate body fat percentage or overall weight, yeah, you're not going to get a complete picture. You probably need to take into account the behaviors there as well. But more importantly, you need to do medical testing. ECGs, EKGs, blood tests, all of these things can help determine health. It's not just behaviors or how fat you are.
It promotes the concept of intuitive eating, which means eating what your body is craving in response to your natural hunger and fullness cues rather than
I think her natural fullness cues may be a little bit skewed.
External rules and expectations. It also places a big emphasis on understanding the intersectional nature of health disparities and the importance of ending weight stigma and weight discrimination in both the medical world and the world at large.
I'm not really getting much about actually assessing health here though. Surely a health at every size movement that's evidence-based would have some form of health testing guidelines which can determine then whether you are actually healthy at whatever size you're at. What's going to happen here is you're going to create fatness echo chamber. Loads of people are only looking at the issue of weight stigma. They're not actually getting their test to check whether maybe that weight stigma applies or maybe you're just fat and unhealthy. Just going to lead to a biased point of view. She said it's evidence-based, nothing really there to back it up. The only evidence she's putting forward is looking at behaviors as a metric, and that's kind of ignoring all of the medical practices that have developed over the last, 100, 200 years to actually measure this stuff. So there's no, okay, if this blood test or this medical test says that I'm healthy at this size, then I'm healthy, full stop. It's if I do things that healthy people do, then I'm healthy.
Stupid is, stupid does, sir.
Behaviors probably aren't the best sole judge, same way that body fat percentage or weight isn't. So you might be asking yourself where the line is drawn. Does a 400-pound person who's clinically obese and does a HIIT workout 8 times a day to go to the fridge, does that count as somebody who's healthy because they eat a portion of vegetables every day? Well, luckily enough, we've got Alex Joy Pucci to break down the limitations for us.
Thank you so much for this question. I get this all the time. People want to know, well, isn't there a point at which you are too overweight and you do need to lose weight for your health? To which I say no, and here's why. It boils down to the fact that weight is not a behavior. Moving your body, eating healthy foods like fiber-rich foods and vegetables, these are health-promoting behaviors.
If you tell somebody who's got an eating disorder that if they eat their fruit, vegetables and do some form of exercise, they'll be absolutely fine, that's irresponsible advice. Some people just aren't that educated about how calories work. Some people genuinely think that if you add things into your diet, it will counteract the bad things that you're having. Have a McDonald's one day, have a salad afterwards, well, that's absolutely fine. If you notice again, we're talking about health-promoting behaviors, not things that actually indicate that you are healthy.
And can decrease things like risk of mortality, etc., without weight loss being the goal. Essentially, you don't have to lose weight in order to be healthier.
Okay, I can get on board with that. You don't have to lose weight to be healthier, but to be classified as generally healthy, you may need to lose a certain amount of weight if you are morbidly obese.
And you have to look at weight stigma. Yes, it exists in the medical field. The first thing is that people who live in larger bodies are less likely to go to the doctor because guess what? They're constantly being told to lose weight and it's very uncomfortable for them.
Of course, going to the doctor isn't going to be comfortable for an overweight person. It's not comfortable for most people. They're literally their job to point out the consequences of your actions and to remind you, because at the end of the day, you're the one who's eventually going to be costing them money further down the line.
That alone leads to negative health outcomes. It's also really lazy medical advice. There's been many studies to show that joint pain in people with larger bodies has nothing to do with the weight. weight. But again, it's an easy scapegoat.
This is another issue that I have with a lot of these segments of TikTok, of influencers who say there are plenty of studies to suggest. A lot of the times when we actually delve into these studies, they actually don't substantiate the whole claim. So people will say, for example, there are plenty of studies which show that weight has nothing to do with joint pain. What those studies may actually say is that weight is not the direct only factor that contributes towards joint pain issues. However, weight can onset a few different medical conditions which can lean into it, or weight will be a contributing factor. I'd love to find out what apparently these studies are saying is the cause of joint pain, because as somebody who is sort of 215 pounds currently, which isn't even anywhere near the level of some of these people, it's not comfortable. And it does create joint pain. And deflection is another huge issue with this movement. You know, if I went to a doctor and got a sexual health test and they told me that I had chlamydia, they probably wouldn't go to, have you had contact with any koalas recently, would they? They'd probably say, have you been sleeping with any wrong-uns? Just because other things can contribute, it doesn't mean they're the only cause. Same way that just because weight can absolutely contribute, it's not the only cause. However, if the other causes are symptoms of that weight gain, then yeah, it's the only cause. But I'm not saying that's going to be the case 100% of the time. So how do people actually end up in this situation? Let's have a little look at the root causes of weight gain, because it might surprise you to hear it's not diet.
Yeah, so there's so many reasons that someone can gain weight without having excess calories or more calories than a thin person.
If you classify excess calories as above your maintenance, there is almost zero ways, except for very rare medical conditions. More calories than a thin person, you would definitely be losing weight. If you are eating less than somebody who is maintaining a lower body weight, your body weight will drop if you are a higher body weight than them. That is how calories in, calories out works. But let's find out about those exceptions that she's saying there are. Maybe there are some.
You can look those up, there's lots of conditions that have weight gain.
You can look those up. You look them up, because I have no clue what I'm talking about. Oh, there are plenty of reasons, I promise, believe me. To me, I just think a bit like scientific gaslighting. I've read studies, or I read an article, or I heard an interview where this person said. That is not empirical evidence, that's not a fact, that would not stand up in court, and that doesn't stand up in a medical journal.
But the thing is, it's based in sustainability, and it's not sustainable long-term to just do calories in, calories out.
Okay, it's not sustainable. You mean you can't? Because I've done calories in, calories out for around 7 years now, and it's worked. When I've increased my calories, I've gained weight. When I've decreased my calories, I've lowered weight. It takes some time to figure out, but absolutely it's sustainable. Calories in, calories out doesn't mean that you have to restrict your foods. The principles literally are eat less calories than you expend, more calories than you expend, and you will gain weight. It's science.
Your body will gain the weight back.
The fun fact for anyone who didn't know, your body can actually get you up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It drags you by your ankles down to the kitchen, gets some Ben & Jerry's out of the freezer, cooks up pizza, consumes it all. I think you'll find that your choices mean that you will gain the weight back. It is very difficult, don't get me wrong. Once you've gone down to a lower weight, a lot of people typically tend to rebound straight out of that back to their normal eating. The issue is their normal eating was making them morbidly obese. So when they do that, they're in an even greater surplus than they were before. Hence why they gain back the weight very, very quickly, because before maybe they were eating a few hundred calorie surplus every day. But when they lose all that weight, that 300 calorie surplus turns into a 1,000 calorie surplus.
95% of people who intentionally lose weight through dieting and exercise, keyword intentional, gain the weight back and more within 5 years. So it's not as simple as just calories in, calories out. It's as simple as making sure you're eating a varied diet, making sure you're moving your body, and not trying to just make yourself thinner for the sake of it. That's sustainable health. Calories in, calories out might work temporarily, but your body will bounce back to its set point weight.
So again, we've covered this. Your body will bounce back because your eating bounces back. That's quite simple. Calories in, calories out is the only way to sustainably lose weight. It is about health. You've got to introduce stuff like fruits, vegetables. You've got to introduce, low calorie dense foods so that you can still have nice, good tasting stuff with a few swaps here or there that just gives you more bang for your buck out of those calories per day. And you do have to have a bigger why. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who's losing weight for the sake of it will fail guaranteed. Now, I was never actually that overweight, right? I was chubby. I had man boobs and that was about the extent of it. But my reason was enough because it had a big enough impact on my life. And I'm a person who seeks out practical solutions rather than tries to create excuses for my circumstance. So that was enough of a motivation to see me through to 7 years later. Do I probably have other issues? Yeah, probably. I turned into an enhanced bodybuilder. I probably have issues with self-image, but they've improved a hell of a lot since then. She did say there are other reasons why you may be gaining this weight, hitting 300 pounds at 5 foot nothing. So let's have a look and see if we can spot any of these medical ailments with a full day of eating from somebody who's not trying to lose weight. This is Floral Frosting. App name. They're a body positivity influencer, a health at every size who does not want to lose the weight. But of course, no matter how fat she gets, she shouldn't anyway, should she, Alex?
As a fat person who isn't on a diet, I made chocolate bread.
I'm simultaneously disgusted and aroused. Never had it, never thought that anyone would want to bake it for a breakfast, but fair play to you. That is genius. I've got a feeling that this might be a theme developing through the video. Adding a fruit salad to the back end of it definitely isn't going to balance it out or make it healthy in it. Will it add micronutrients? Sure. Can they contribute towards health? Sure. But calories in general are going to be a bigger contributor to health. That's basically like taking a multivitamin after a Domino's pizza and saying everything's going to be alright. Don't worry guys, I've got this covered. If you're not from the UK, you don't know this, but Greggs is basically, it's a fucking religion. We even have hoodies that are printed out that people wear to festivals with just a Greggs logo on it because people are so obsessed. It is amazing tasting food. Is it good for you in any way, shape or form? Nope. Just because it's vegan especially doesn't mean it. Like the vegan sausage roll they made was actually less healthy than the actual sausage roll with miscellaneous meat in it. And that is pretty much a summary of what Greggs is. It's just miscellaneous stuff, all butter pastry parcel that you kind of just don't think about when you're eating it, and that's the whole point. I don't know if you've got an equivalent in the US, something dirty like that, like comment below what's the equivalent where you live, but just proper dirty food. It tastes good, I'm not going to think about where it's from. I'm sorry, but this just seems all non-committal for me as well. If you're going to go and have yourself 1,000+ calorie snack, you don't have a Greggs donut at the end of it. Take the time, travel to the next shop and get yourself a Krispy Kreme. I know you're clearly going for quantity of calories here, but we've got to think about quality sometimes too. She always looks so sad when she's eating the healthy stuff that she bolts onto the end of her meals, isn't she? Right, I just want to go back and look at that salad. We've got deep fried chicken nuggets, basically, oil-drenched sun-dried tomatoes, hummus, which is on the health scale. We've got potatoes, which appear to be fried as well. That's pretty much on McDonald's level of salad, if you know what I mean. Again, bolting on healthy stuff to the end of it to show that, look, well, I'm taking care of my nutrients in this way. But it's like, yes, but you're still eating way too much throughout the day. That salad is at least 600 to 800 calories. The Greggs is about 1,000, probably 1,200 calories. The breakfast, I'm willing to bet, is 600 to 800 calorie mark. So we're already looking at, overeating for a woman. Now, granted, she said that she's not looking to lose weight. We've got to bear that in mind, right? She's not actively trying to diet, but why would you put a video on social media about your full day of eating when you're overweight? It's clearly brought you to a point where your weight is not in line with what would be classified as healthy. You're not trying to lose any weight. You're probably still eating in a surplus. So what you're doing is basically saying, this is how I gain weight, everyone. If you would like to also be less healthy and fat like me, then eat this. Now, I get that's not the purpose of this video. It's there to just normalize normal diets, and that's absolutely fine, but I would in no way, shape or form classify this as a normal diet. Nobody I know eats chocolate bread with banoffee almond butter in the morning, deep fried chicken nuggets on their salads, Greggs bakes for lunch. After lunchtime, I'd be feeling pretty shit about myself. I'd be feeling pretty run down, pretty groggy, because that's what that kind of food does to you if you eat that consistently over a day. So what have I learned to my intro to both TikTok and body positivity? Firstly, TikTok is every bit as toxic and irritating as I thought it would be, and you're going to have to send this video to the moon for me to revisit this platform again. Secondly, in my opinion, much like the world in 2022, everything's just gone too far. As I said at the start of this video, I support body positivity in its purest form, right? Especially stuff you can't control, stuff you can control is a bit more iffy. However, there are really valid points within body positivity that I think people are neglecting in order for the more polarizing points, which is never a good way of winning an argument or winning people over at scale. Look at the way that vegans had to change the way they were acting in order to get the public on board. 5-10 years ago, it was a meme that vegans would tell you and they'd be preachy and they'd go about it in all the wrong ways. Nowadays, vegans have learned that actually getting these people on board as allies, at least getting them to make small changes in their diet, move towards veganism rather than being militant, restrictive and saying, no, you can't go in unless you're a full-blown vegan. That's really paid them in good stead. And now look at what's happening with supermarket shelves. Yes, sure, climate change has had an aspect of that, but if vegans were still behaving in the way they used to, then I'm not sure the societal movement towards veganism would be as strong as it is today. People are leaning on really fragile points. They're making facts which they're saying is backed up by science. People are making broad statements. They're not outlining the reasoning behind things. You know, would it really kill your views or your likability if you actually put a study in there? Focus a TikTok on a study individually per video. Really educate people on the truth. But what people are doing instead is they're making sweeping statements, things which are inaccurate. It's like when anti-vax started talking about 5G, right? Everyone was like, oh my God, these people are absolutely nuts. When actually that movement had some really valid points about it was early in the stages, it was rushed through. There are certain things which were of concern regarding side effects. In today's world, we lean into the wrong side of the debate. We lean into the extremes. We're a really polarized society. So in this case, with fat acceptance and HAES, you know, there are some really, really valid points within body positivity. We should absolutely not deem somebody's value based on their physical attributes. And yet people are leaning on stuff like, well, actually being fat isn't unhealthy at all. They're making sweeping statements which aren't backed up by science. It just makes no sense to lean on the most fragile arguments in order to make your case. Start with the stuff you can actually back up by facts, because otherwise all you're doing is bringing other people into this lie, right? Because people watch this content and go, well, actually there are loads of studies that back this up. And you go, well, what studies? And they go, I don't know, I saw it on a video somewhere. It's not the same as real empirical evidence. And a final point to leave you with. Have you ever noticed that all of these posts, all of these body positivity, all of this health at every size, it's all women. There is no body positivity, health at every size, fat acceptance for men. Now, the main argument, which we can delve into in a future video if you want, is that, well, women have it harder. They have more pressures on them. And so actually men's complete struggle with this is discounted because women have it that bit harder. But some things that we can't ignore is the 75% male versus female suicide rates. Now you may say, right, okay, well, I'm sure that overweight women, because of these issues, commit suicide at a higher rate. That must be a problem. Well, actually, men and women commit suicide at equivalent rates when they're overweight or obese. I'm not saying either scenario is okay or either scenario should happen. I'm just saying that the fact that we're neglecting one argument because in general women feel harder done by is just abhorrent. Men face huge issues within society still, and I'm not saying they're worse in any way or that we should neglect either side. I'm simply saying that all the issues need to be represented. There's a massive prejudice against shorter men. There's bigorexia. There's issues with young people jumping into enhancement chemicals in order to have the body image they see on screen all the time, because everyone we see in our media is juiced to the gills. Every actor, The Rock, anyone who gets into real shape for a superhero movie, odds are they're on the juice. So we have unrealistic body standards too. I do not believe though that showcasing the morbidly obese side is any healthier than showing the dangerously underweight side. We need to show a moderate body ideal, something that's achievable, but also something which genuinely fits within the realms of healthy, in terms of wouldn't probably have an impact on their overall health simply due to their body fat percentage or weight. Both sides are unhealthy. Not that a lot of influencers we've looked at today will accept that, but that's objective fact. Now, I understand a lot of people will probably say, well, we don't actively exclude men from the conversation, but your membership, the people who subscribe to your ideology, the people you invite into your community, represents who you are and who you stand for. The lack of men suggests to me one of two things. One, that men are self-aware enough and we're facts-based, we're more practical, and we understand and accept the truth that, okay, if we're fat, we're fat. If that means we're unhealthy, that means we're unhealthy. We are problem solvers. We want to get the objective truth so that we can work out a solution. But generally also because men are today seen as demonized oppressors. It is seen as a male-dominant world, although we've got some voices out there who are advocating for the fact that that's not maybe strictly the case. Men's struggles are being pushed aside because, quite simply, women's are more important. But as the saying goes, when you fight fire with fire, everyone gets fat. Nobody's suffering overrides anyone others. That's just a straight fact. Surely that should be what body positivity is about, right? Whether it's because you have scars, whether it's because you're overweight, whatever the case, you should not be judged based on your physical attributes, and somebody else being worse off in terms of their experiences or how they are physically shouldn't override anyone else's struggles. Everyone is facing a struggle. We need to be understanding and accepting of them all and work towards solutions for everyone. But unfortunately, I just don't buy into the fact that solution is found in ignoring the health impacts of our choices. What occurs to me after watching these videos today is, first of all, that I need a coffee and to decompress, but second of all, that these people seem to have been marginalized, have treated poorly because of, how they look, who they are, their attributes, and they seem to simply be doing the same to other people. They have become what they hate. They've become cliquey and discriminatory. This is generally speaking seen as a feminist movement. In my opinion, body positivity, accepting people for who they are and not judging them based on physical characteristics, should be universal. It shouldn't be restricted to one ideology and one gender. This is a wild ride, and if you want me to take another journey into the dystopian world of TikTok and body positivity and health at every size, press that thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. God, I hope not.